Today's video is about fishing blade baits on Lake Erie. A blade bait, if you've never fished one, is basically a thin piece of metal with lead on the nose, a couple of treble hooks. And I first learned about this type of bait probably 2 decades ago from guys like Greg Mangus and Mark Zona in West Michigan. They use them in the very early part of spring for cold water smallmouth, right when the ice leaves. But they're also extremely effective for Lake Erie walleye. This time of year, a lot of these fish have left the Detroit River and they're gathered in groups on the lake out here. And if they're 10 feet off the bottom, 15 feet off the bottom, you're better off trolling. But if you see a lot of fish on the graph right on the bottom, blade bait's got to be one of the most fun ways to catch them. Today I'm going to show you how to do it. So usually when I throw blade baits, it's usually in the fall for smallmouth, and I use fluorocarbon line. But today I'm fishing a little deeper for these Lake Erie walleye. So I'm using 10-pound braid. We got it on a 7-foot medium action fast tip rod. I tie right to the clip. I don't use no leader or nothing. This is a Bondy blade. It's 5/8 ounces, and it catches them good. What I've done is I put these snap-on type hooks on here, so there's no weld on one of the bends, so you can actually just push them on there without using a split ring, and they hang up less around the back and that. Look for blade baits that have these push-on hooks like this, and a premium hook will catch you way more fish. So those hooks should stick really good like that. You'll catch way more fish if you use a premium hook. One of the most important things about fishing a blade bait is from the cast to the retrieve, it's about having semi-tight to tight line. If you just take this thing and you just chuck it through the air, it's probably going to spin. Any blade bait will do that. It'll spin like a helicopter. And what'll happen is it'll tangle, and when it lands, it's all tangled for the whole retrieve. So what you want to do is chuck it out there and just kind of lob it. You don't want to zing it out there too hard. You just want to lob it out there, and when it's in the air, it should be like this. So if you keep your line semi-tight when it's in the air, it'll keep tension on here. The bait will land nose first and it'll work properly. When it first lands in the water, I want to barely give it a little pull, and when I feel it vibrating up near the surface, then I'm good for the entire cast. Now here's where jigging works. Whenever something is in the water doing this, that's an abnormality. The prey are not healthy if they're doing that. So the predators see this, and they've been tuned in to watch for something that is acting weird amongst the normal bait fish. So they see that as something easy to eat. The upward motion attracts them. On the fall is when they deem that thing vulnerable and easy to get. So that's why it's important to go on a tight line on the way down, because whether you're jigging the river or jigging a lake, you want to go slow on the way down. That's when they're going to eat it. They're not going to eat it on the top. They're going to eat it right here, anywhere between the peak and the way down. So it's crucial to let it fall slowly. So I'll jig it up, feel the vibration, let it fall real slow. If the water's super cold, I might jig it in shorter hops and slower on the way down, but normally it's just as soon as I feel it vibrate, and then pendulum down. All right, the reason why you want to use premium hooks is, people think when they're setting a hook, they're getting that barb in there. You're not getting the barb in there. That takes a while of fighting the fish all the way to the boat. You're just getting the point started when you set the hook. So that's why I tell my customers, keep a ton of pressure on there, let them barbs get dug in there, and you'll have way more success. Don't let slack go on your line after you've set the hook. You just got the point started. So the better hooks you can put on your baits, the better. Just don't go cheap on the hooks, whether it's jigs or whatever. Premium hooks are the way to go. Another tip anytime you're fishing is always be in position to set the hook. That's one thing I've talked about in seminars for 20 years is when you're fishing, constantly ask yourself, if I was to get a bite right now, would I get them? And often you find out you got your line wrapped around your tip, or you're standing next to your buddy when all your power's on the left, you ain't gonna get them. So constantly ask yourself, okay, if I was gonna get a bite right now, what would happen? Oftentimes you're gonna lose them. So just remember that tip. Always try to be in position to set the hook at all times. So when I'm casting this thing, I just want to lob it out there. Keep the line tight on the cast. The second it lands, I'm going to pull it back just a little bit, get the vibration going. If you can get the vibration going near the surface, you're good for the whole cast. Second it lands, I'm just going to start slowly pulling it back. When I feel that vibration, I start letting it down to the bottom. If the fish are near the bottom, they're going to hammer it. Don't overwork this thing. The water's cold. Don't overwork it. Just keep it near the bottom. The fish feel that vibration from a distance, they'll come and nail it. All right, don't get hung up on your favorite color. Just because it worked yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work today. Have a good selection of blade baits and colors of them. Always switch it up. If you're not getting a fish you're looking for, switch the bait. I'm going to start with Fire Tiger today, but I'll switch to something else if I don't have a fish here pretty quick. Trust your hunches and your instincts. When you're fishing, if you fish a lot, you're usually right on your hunches. Okay, so if you find a pot of fish, they're not here by chance. They're here following bait fish. And oftentimes the bait fish are over little rises in the bottom. You may not be able to perceive it, but on Lake Erie where there's current, and if you have a 1 foot rise in the bottom, what happens is the current is just fractionally increasing as it goes past that rise. And oftentimes that attracts the bait fish and the walleye. So look for tiny little rises in the bottom, whether you're bass fishing, walleye fishing, whatever. But it's all about the bait fish. If there's no food here, there's not going to be any walleye here. Okay, so what happens this time of year is these fish are leaving the Detroit River, they're leaving the reefs, and they're headed east. So I'll find them in packs 100 to 200 yards across, and I'll sit in my bass boat and just pick them off one at a time. Trolling, you got to go back and forth. But if I can pinpoint the school, I'll sit on top and just pick them off with this blade bait.